Lokaram is there with you?
Yeah, he's upstairs.
Yeah, we're in the same house. My daughter is doing her games up here, so.
Pungsah Pumasoh Krishna Sthane. Yeah. So the word pungs is replaced by pumas when a Krishna sthan follows. So the word is pungs. So pungs yuktasu, then pungsa pumasu Krishna sthane, abrahma pandava shishta Krishna sthan sangya, pumasu yuktasu, then achashta tribhujan bandhanam chanam Krishna sthane, buddham vina, right? No. Yes. By that sutra nom is there. Ante sarvisha paramita sthanam pumangs yuktasu, then pumangs. Oh, then that sutra is applied. Nanta.
Satsanganta haro.
No. Trivikrama.
Is it? Oh, it wasn't there. I couldn't see it. Now I can see it. Yeah. Nanta Dhatu Varjita Santa Satsanga Mahadapama Vashatri Vikrama Krishna Sthane Buddham Vina.
Nanta dhatu varjita sa anta satsanga. So this is sa anta satsanga, right?
Yes.
So that's why it takes Trivikrama and then Radha Vishnu Janabhyam and Satsanganta Sara Vishnu Padante. Puman. The very well-known word Puman is from Pungs. So Puman, Pumangso, Pumangsam, Pumangso. Then 2, 3 is Pungsa, Pungsa. Then Pungs Bhyam. Then Purvasya Vishnu Padavatvam Ityadi. And Satsanganta Hara Vishnu Padante. And again, they have done Purvasya Vishnu Padavatvam and Harivenurva?
I think this is it? No, this is Mo Vishnu Chakram Vishnu Jane. And then they're doing Vishnu, that's what 113 is. They're doing Mo Vishnu Chakram Vishnu Jane and then Vishnu Chakra se Hari Venur. Vishnu Varge, Vishnu Padanta Situva.
So Vishnu Chakrasya Harivena Vishnu Varge, Vishnu Padantasya tu Va. So because they have made it Vishnu Padanta, that's why Va. Vishnu Padantasya tu Va. So Pumbhyam and Pungbhyam.
So that's interesting. And Vijay Prabhu and I were speaking about this previously. It seems like even though we combine them, that the activity of the sutra Purvasya Vishnu Padavatvam stays in place, the effect. And so we're still considering this as Vishnu Padanta.
Okay. You mean
right?
the Prakriti?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that true? Because it seems very weird to me, but it seems like that's what's happening here also. Because we were talking about this word Vanksh, and it was quite confusing. Vanch.
V-A-M-S?
V-A-N, na,
okay.
As in tavarga na, and then sha, dental sha, vanch, yeah. And there was a bit of confusion there with what the form would be when we combined it with these Gopal beginning pratyayas. Anyway, we don't have to talk so much about that because this deals with it. So it seems like this is optional because it's Vishnu Padanta, and that optionality continues even when you combine them, because it's saying that Pumbhyam with the Vishnu Chakra is an acceptable form. But normally this Vishnu Chakra se Hari Venur, Vishnu Varge, Vishnu Padanta Situva, when you read that, it says it's only optional when it's Vishnu Padanta. When the Vishaya is Vishnu Padanta.
One thing which I would like to say here is that already it has become a Vishnu Pada. So there was no need to again write 246, Purvasya Vishnu Padavatvam Ityadi. because it's already a Vishnu pada. And
When you combine them.
yeah, means when we combine Vishnu Bhakti Siddham Vishnu Padam, when the Prakriti and Pratyaya
Yeah.
they combine together, so it results into a Vishnu pada.
Yeah.
So
But see, that's exactly what my thought was in the beginning. But the problem here is they're treating this ma, which is pum, and then byam, after they combine it, they're still treating it like a Vishnu pada. Because
they're treating
normally it would be
Pum
required.
as so they're treating Pum as a Vishnu pada even after combining both of them.
Yes. And see, that was the difficulty with this word vanch, is they didn't even specify after 1-1, 1-2, and 1-3 what the forms would be. So when I got to it, I remember we went over it and it was van byam.
Huh?
But I was wondering, it was van byam
Okay.
for 3-2. And I was wondering, well, why wouldn't it turn into vam byam? Because of this avishnu padantasya nasya masya cha vishnu chakram vaishnave. Because when you combine them, that na is no longer at the end of a vishnu, or it's no longer Vishnu Padanta, because you have Van and Byam. And so then compulsorily it should become a Vishnu Chakra, Vam Byam, and then Vishnu Chakra Sehari. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, but this answers it, because that allows, because we did this Purvasya Vishnu Padavatam Swadi Tiditaya Ayasadeshwaradyoho, it allows for that to still be Vishnu Padanta as the Vishaya, and therefore the change to Ma isn't required. We went back and forth, if you look at the chat, about this for 30 or 40 comments, because we were wondering, because we didn't get the form and I couldn't even look it up and find it anywhere else.
Means
This is
generally
interesting.
that the trend which is followed by Jiva Goswami in this particular section, Vishnu Jananta Purushottam Linga, is like if we have the example of what you are saying. So it's Vans, right?
Vanch, sha, dental sha.
Oh, that is palatal sha actually.
Yeah, sorry. You're right,
So,
yeah, palatal sha.
So if we have Vang Shipta Bhyam, so generally what Jiva Goswami has done is like Purvasa Vishnu Padavatvam, Swadita Dhita Yura Yasarishwaradya is applied, and then Satsangantasya Hara Vishnu Padante,
Yes.
and so like that.
Yeah.
So now your point is that if we still consider it as Vishnu Pada,
No, my point is that if we don't, then a Vishnu Padantasya Nasya Masya after you combine them.
then this na will convert into a Vishnu Chakra, and then Vishnu Chakra
Yes.
will convert into Ma Rama by Vishnu Chakra
Yes.
Sahari Vendor Ityadi.
Yes.
But you see, like in other words, okay, for this one, Jiva Goswami has not given, the further forms after 1,
Yes.
1, 1, 2. But for others, which he has given, he didn't actually did that. He just
Well, this was the first one though, where the ends, the narama stays. I looked through,
so
and it isn't specified.
one thing is this, Van Bhyam.
And Prashan also.
Yeah, Prashant, because that Antaranga Karya Bahiranga, that maxim.
Uh-huh.
So by that maxim, that this sir, let me use this. This sir is, present as a ghost here, as they say, even though it is deleted.
I've seen that they use that for Namantasya Nasya Haro Vishnu Padante Buddham Vina. I read that stops you from deleting the na. But is that it doesn't seem to be what's getting in the way here with transforming it after we combine them.
Because even this one, okay. Okay, one more option could be, after deleting Sharama, now we can apply Namantasya Nasya Haro even.
But we can't, they say, because of what you just said. Because what is that? Not the one you quoted, but Ekadesha Vivritti. That even though it's deficient, it's still there. Because they told us this with Bhagavan. That why don't we delete na at the end of Bhagavan in 1-1? And they said because actually the ta is still there. It's technically taramanta. And so you can't apply namantasya sihro Vishnu padante.
So one thing is this Van Bhyam by that magazine Antaranga Karya Bahiranga Karya. I just didn't remember that. You understood that magazine, right?
That an antaranga is stronger than a bahiranga karya.
No. Like
Or the other way around.
When there is a Bahiranga Karya happening, then it somehow, it indirectly stops the Antaranga Karya to take place, even indirectly. Like in Rajan, yes. So when we deleted Na Rama by Namantasya Nasya Haro, first of all Purvasya and then Namantasya. So even though Na Rama was deleted, now Krishnasya Tilvikrama Gopale could have been applied here. But there they have specified two things. One is that when either Na Rama or Va Rama is at the end of the word which are deleted, so the A Rama preceding that is not considered a Krishna Shabda.
Yeah.
That was one thing. And second thing was when Na Rama is deleted, so the deletion of Na Rama is like Asiddha. You remember that Asiddha point? As if it has not happened.
It's not Mahaharaha, right? So we still have...
Okay, we can say not Mahahara, and it is Asiddha, like Asiddha Iva. And it's still there, and it's prohibiting the Rama from becoming Gopal, Trivikrama, and so on.
That I understand.
So, but
then why wouldn't we apply that to Pumps? We just deleted Sa, and then we're still able to apply this to the Ma. So it seems like a simpler answer here that it just continues to be Vishnu Padante as the Vishaya, even though we combine them.
So it's Pum. No, what was that?
Satsangantasya Haro Vishnu Padante.
Yes, Satsangantasya, and then Haro Vishnu Padante.
And now they're saying it's optional if it's Vishnu Chakra or if it becomes Marama because of Vishnu Chakra Sahari Venur. But it's only optional by that sutra if the Vishaya is Vishnu Padanta.
What is 242?
242 is Satsangantasya Haro Vishnu Padante.
Okay.
And then it becomes... Yeah, it's Satsangantasya Haro Vishnu Padante.
So it becomes Marama because of Nimitta by Namitika Sattapaya. And we have Pum Dhyam. And then they have... So now Vishnu Bhakti Siddham Vishnu Padam.
Well, first they do Mo Vishnu Chakram Vishnu Jane, right?
Okay.
Then they combine.
And then
Vishnu Chakra Sahari Venur to get two optional forms. But that's only optional if it's the Vishaya is still Vishnu Padanta.
Vishnu Chakra Sahari Venur, Vishnu Varga. Ideally, when Vishnu Varga follows and when it is a Vishnu Pada, then there is no option and it simply becomes like this.
That's what I'm saying though, but they're saying it's optional, which means it has to still be Vishnu Pada, Vishnu Padanta.
They are making Pum even after combining them as a Vishnu Pada, and that's a little confusing here.
I wonder if that's a mistake on their part for applying 246 again, and if it's not just there in 114, that it's optional.
It should be like this only, Pum Bhyam. Ideally. Because if we check the translation of Vishnu Chakra Se Hari Vener Vishnu Varge, then when it's at the end of a Vishnu Pada, then it's optional. But if it's
Yeah.
in between a Vishnupada, like a Vishnupada, then it's like it's not optional. It's like
But do you see my point here? I'm wondering, is that true? Because otherwise, why are we allowed to do any of what we're doing here with the transformations if the sa is still there because it's asiddha? If we didn't actually get rid of it, then why are we able to have an interaction between these at all? So
you mean to say like sometimes that rule is
It-
applied and sometimes it's not applied.
No, I'm saying that because this is there, that this must be what's happening with Van Byam and what's happening with Pum Byam here. Because otherwise, then you have to have the transformation. Like you have to apply this Avishnu Padantasya Nasyamasya for Van Byam. And you have to apply this Vishnu Chakrasya Harivain or Vishnu Varge to Pum Byam. Because if you're saying that this a Siddha point is there, then that works for Van Byam, but it doesn't work for the form you would get with Pum Byam. Because it would stay as a Vishnu Chakra here, and it wouldn't
Okay.
change because Sa is a Siddha, it's still there.
How would you like to decline this Van Yukta Bhyam now? Like, let's do this one even. Now we have
Just
Van
like
Bhyam.
that. Just like that. But if we didn't have Vishnu Padanta as the Vishaya, then a Vishnu Padantasya Nasyamasya to Vishnu Chakram Vaishnava. Because also Bha is a Vaishnava. So it fulfills both of the requirements.
And then
Vishnu Chakrasya Harivainor, Vishnu Varge, Vishnu Padantasya tu Vam Bhyam. That was my thought originally. Because
see, one thing I would like to mention is the definition of bahulam, which we had read before. You know, kvachid pravrittihi, kvachid pravrittihi, kvachid vibhasha, kvachid anya deva, kvachid, what was afterwards? Kvachid pravritti, kvachid pravritti, kvachid vibhasha, kvachid anya deva. Vidher vidhanam bahudha samiksha. Bahulam, something. So sometimes it's applied, sometimes it's not applied. Sometimes, you know, something else is applied in place of that. So we have something like bahulam, which means that a particular vidhi, which may be logically fitting at certain places, like, you know, at Van Bhyam, at Pum Bhyam, and words like Raja Bhyam, and so on. So, in order to arrive at a certain form, now it's like we have Vam Bhyam and we have Van Bhyam. Vam Bhyam doesn't just look okay. What do you think, Prabhu?
I don't know, Prabhu, because this seems like a simple answer that solves both problems. That the Vishaya just stays as Vishnu Padanta when they're combined. Because we applied the sutra and the effect of the sutra isn't going away. Because otherwise it seems like there's a whole like if you say the Bahula thing, then what's the limit to saying that everywhere? You know, it seems like they tell us whenever there's a Bahula rule, and it's not like I only saw it once with this what was it? Idur Datur Idutor Ival Sarveshware Bahulam. But if we say Bahula everywhere, then it's like, how do I know anything works and when to apply anything?
It's not like that we are saying everywhere. It's just means sometimes the forms they cannot be described, you know, from a grammatical point of view, even after having studying all the, you know, commentaries, because like if you don't get answers in vritti, then you get answers in either bala or amrita, you know.
Yeah.
And if not even there, then you may get it in Sankshodhini by Matsapta Prabhu. But even if you don't get any answer in Sankshodhini, which happens a lot of times, then it's like they are leaving upon us to
Yeah.
to sort of understand by ourselves, which may be little difficult for us initially. So for such cases, because this is not first time which is coming up, such things instances will be coming up even afterwards, especially in dhatus like atmapada and parapada prakriya.
Yeah.
So there will be a lot of stuffs where logically a particular rule would have been put or to be followed, but it's not happening. And then the paribhasha of bahulam is followed, and so bahulam is a vibhasha, a paribhasha like that. That something it's applied, sometimes it's not applied. Even Jiva Goswami, he just says kochit in that verse. He doesn't particularly mention that what does kochit actually mean, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes.
So what is sometimes? How do you define sometimes now?
Yeah.
Like sometime in your life, now when you were 1 year old, when you were 10 years old, and so on. So sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't particularly define, you know, a particular time, circumstance, and so on.
So you're
So
basically saying that it means that you need to see when you see the exceptions, you'll recognize them because you'll see that they're different than the normal rule.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
And that's the sometimes. That you know
that
the
sometimes.
standard, and when you see the difference, then you're okay, this is obviously it should have gone this way, but it's not going this way. So
Yeah, and but sometimes that kochit, you know, that kochit, the word sometimes, it's like I'll say 5 to 10%, you know, amongst the 100% of the forms, or maybe even less than that.
yeah, it's they're definitely exceptions.
So it's there are like literally exceptions, and Jiva Goswami is especially covering these words. Many of these words are like exceptions to the main words. So the main words are quite easy, you know, but the words like these and these, many of the words they are like exceptions and special words which may take special forms and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I understand that the bahula thing is taking place at most of the places, and except for that, if there is any explanation, then it must be in the commentaries. And if it's not there in any of the commentary, then we have to understand, like in this direction. Like this is my little
Yeah,
understanding of
definitely.
the fact. So personally, even like when I started studying, so I was like too logical, and even though I was scared of my teacher, I would harass him by asking questions. And like in ISKCON, we say Achintya Bheda Bhed and so on. So
Yeah.
my Vyakran teacher would say Bahula, Bahula, Bahula. And I was like, what is Bahula? He said Bahula. It's Bahula rule. It's Bahula rule. I was like, then he explained me one day, when I was too much frustrated, that actually uh, means you cannot logically achieve or obtain a particular form sometimes, you know, the exceptions. So
Mm.
that's why the concept of bahula is introduced. Otherwise, what is the use of introducing bahula at an initial point, even, you know?
Yeah.
So that was what I understood. And if there is any explanation, except for bahula part, then it has to be in the commentaries.
Mm. Okay, yeah.
So, like, okay, for Van Bhyam, we didn't have any explanation in the Vritti, and I even think even in the commentaries. But for Pum Bhyam, uh,
I just looked, we don't have anything here. It just talks about the transformation because of the dropping of sa.
so here, they are making the forms. I think in the Vritti, it must be there. It's here, you know.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
Jiva
see,
Goswami.
it's not that Ma is the Pumbyam is the only one, because Jiva Goswami himself is writing the option.
So that's what I'm saying. He's himself clear about this here.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what makes it difficult, because that means there has to be an option by Vishnu Chakrasya Harivenur.
Okay, can you please check 114 whether it is really Vishnu Chakrasya?
It is, I can check it, but it's one of the ones that I use in my brain to mark where I
Okay.
am when I'm clicking. So it's definitely 113 and 114 are Vishnu
Can we
Chakrasya.
check the translation, exact translation of
Yeah, I'll go
114?
to it now. 1 second. Sorry to take up so much time. I don't
Yeah,
normally do this.
no
This is
problem.
something that it's like,
I don't mind, Bṛhad. It's nice. It's good to hear everything.
I very much like to progress. So I'm never one to, hold things back or do that.
You're getting Vijay Prabhu's mood. I'll say.
I promise I will make sure to
No,
hold back and do my research as much as I can and not bog down the classes.
no, it's
Okay,
okay.
Vishnu Chakra becomes a Hari
Uh-huh.
Venu of the same Varga as the following Varna. Should I share my screen or we can just, as a
Okay,
following Varna?
you can share.
Okay. A Vishnu Chakra becomes a Hari Venu of the same Varga as the following Varna when a Vishnu Varga follows, but this is optional for a Vishnu Chakra situated at the end of a Vishnu Pada. When the Vishnu Varga follows, Vishnu Chakra becomes the Hari Venu that corresponds to the following Varna. This is optional for a Vishnu Chakra situated at the end of a Vishnu Pada. Examples of a Vishnu Padanta will be given later. So those are all obvious ones. Because of the mention of it should be construed that in the first clause, Vishnu Chakrasya is a Vishnu Padantasya. Thus the resultant meaning is, okay, so that doesn't really help us. And he gives some examples, Ganta, Hanta. And then the Samshodhani is just telling us about the BBT's general way and the fact that traditional scholars don't use it because it's easier to recognize words. In this regard, it will be explained later that all the constituent words that make up a samasa are considered separate Vishnu padas and that upasargas are also considered separate Vishnu padas. So that I also was wondering about, and I was just thinking that it must come later that upasargas are considered Vishnu padas because we do see this optionality there as well, even after they're combined. So it seems like there also, if you can combine an upasarga with the word and still consider it as a Vishnu pada, and therefore this being optional, that works here also, that we made it a Vishnu pada, and that effect of Purvasya Vishnu Padavatva doesn't go away. Therefore it's optional.
Means when we talk of upasargas, like they are little different than the pratyas here.
Yeah.
Like in the verses in the shlokas, we see upasargas separately written as a Vishnu padas, like anu, like api, and so on.
Yeah, we see them as their own words.
So,
Yes.
but when we talk of pratyas like bhyam and so on, so they cannot be separate Vishnu padas, the pratyas. But the prakriti here, the prakriti is treated as a Vishnu pada even after it's combined, and that's making it difficult.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, even Jiva Goswami is saying the optionality is there. And I can't understand anywhere else that optionality would come from other than the sutra that we applied to make it a Vishnu pada, because we are applying Vishnu Chakrasya. So that should force the change.
Okay, what is the translation of Haribenu, Haribenurva?
Harivenu, Harivenurva, when a Harivenu follows, then it becomes a Harivenu.
Okay, that's different. Okay, we'll read this. The fault in Prakriya Kaumudi's statement is that there would be a vyapti, inadequate provision of the rule, when informing the neutral second case plural, she is applied after the word atipungs, and we would get the unwanted form atipungsi instead of the proper form atipomangsi, according to the author of Bhagavati and other authorities. The word nom, which appears in the phrase nom Vishnu Sargavadhane api, refers to every kind of anuswara, Vishnu Chakra. That is to say, it refers both to the Vishnu Chakra that replaces na, and to the Vishnu Chakra that replaces ma by a Vishnu Padantasya Nasyamasya cha Vishnu Chakra Vaishnavi. Thus, since the change to sha would usually take place in pungsaha, pungsa, and so on, even though the Vishnu Chakra that replaces ma intervenes. The author of Bhagavati and other authorities prohibit the change to sha with the sentence beginning Aunadika Sasya. However, the Saramas of other Unadi pratyas do change to sha by Sutra 270. Otherwise, there would be fault in regards to having shi and so on. The change to sha does take place in Pung Shu because it is the sa of sup that is changing to sha, not the sa of Unadi pratyaya. The word Anya refers to Panini, Krama Vishwa numbers. When the final sa of the Satsanga is deleted by Sutra 242, the Vishnu Chakra changes back to Ma due to the disappearance of its Nimitta in the form of a Vaishnava. That's Nimitta by
Yeah.
mentioned. Then the Ma again becomes Vishnu Chakra by Mo Vishnu Chakram, Vishnu Jani.
And then the optionality.
So for converting Mo Vishnu Chakram Vishnu Jane, does it need to be at the end of a Vishnu Pada?
It doesn't specify, it just says when a Vishnu Jana follows.
Yeah.
So after we combine them, then because these are, when we have Pum plus Byam, they're not combined, so technically there's no Vishnu Pada following yet. But then when you combine them, you have to have the change, right?
So
Mo Vishnu Chakram, Vishnu Jana.
like as per the rule Mo Vishnu Chakram Vishnu Jane, which doesn't require it to be at the end of a Vishnu Pada, there was no need to, specify 246 here, right? That's
Yeah, I
how
think that might be, that to me seems like it might have been the fault of Matsya Avatar Prabhu. Because I don't think there's a need to invoke 246 here.
in this case, because Mo Vishnu Chakram Vishnu Jane doesn't demand that point.
Yeah, nor in the next case, because that's my hypothesis, is that the Vishnu Padavatvam is sticking from the first time we applied it. Just like it sticks if we do whatever we do to make an upasarga or have it stay as a Vishnu Pada.
So he has done it thrice here, 246,
Yeah,
246.
that seems weird. And again, we don't see anywhere in the Vritti. This is where the confusion comes in for me, is the steps to get there are implied. And so these are the only places that I question a little bit, why is this done like that?
It's like he wanted to make sure that no one questions, and just put 246, 246, 246. At least to me, it looks like that, you know.
Mm.
Anyhow, so, but still, this is a question mark for me even, that how after combining, it's still considered a Vishnu
Yeah,
Pada.
why did he apply them twice? And like, oh yeah, I'm wondering. But again, we have examples of it happening, and it does persist with words that are in samasa and words with upasargas. So we even have a precedent where it does happen other places, and the optionality is there because even though they're combined, they're still separate Vishnupadas. So if we made this into Vishnupada by Vishnupada Purvasi Vishnupadavattvam, it could be the same thing here. And I don't see any other way we can have this optional form, which again, Jiva Goswami pointed out in the Vritti.
My mind is blowing something. Only
Yeah,
because of,
because
because Jiva Goswami has written two forms and it must be genuine.
yeah.
Maybe, maybe I'll check this vritti in other edition actually.
And see if both the forms are there.
Yeah, because I'm quite doubtful of this form.
1 second.
Means I have another book, but this is Pumsa Pumasu Krishna Sthane. It should be Pumbhyam.
See, but then again, if we do that and we say that that's wrong, then if we go to Van, I wonder why isn't it Vampyam? Because we should have a Vishnu Padantasya Nasya Masya. Because it's not at the end of a Vishnu Pada. So it should turn into Ma. Or it should turn into Vishnu Chakra and then into Ma by Vishnu Chakra se Hari Venor. Just like we did a step down, because of Vishnu Padantasya Nasya Masya to Vishnu Chakram Vaishnava. It's both not at the end of a Vishnu Pada and it's got a Vaishnava following it as a Pada Nimitta. I don't understand.
No, in this case, it was this Pums. We deleted Sarama and this Vishnu Chakra. By Nimitta by Naimittikasya, it was converted into Marama.
Yeah. No, that's not what I'm talking about though. I'm saying that if it's what was the reasoning you just
This was Nimitta by Naimittikasya Papaya.
Yeah, I can understand that. But I'm saying if we say that it's not, that they don't remain as Vishnu Padas, that Pum is not still a Vishnu Pada, then Van should change. If the same thing is, because we applied the same thing there, we applied Purvasya Vishnu Padavatvam. And so if that goes away when we combine them, then it should turn into a Vishnu Chakra by a Vishnu Padantasya Nasya Masya.
But here we didn't have a Vishnu Chakra before. It was Narama.
No, that it doesn't have to have previously been a Vishnu Chakra. A Vishnu Padantasya Nasya Masya Cha Vishnu Chakram Vaishnave.
If it was okay.
No, I'm not saying that this
okay, I got it.
Nimitta Kapaya.
Okay, I got it. You mean in this case, when it's a Vaishnava following, then this Narama should convert into a Vishnu Chakra.
Or a Vishnu Padantasya. So it fulfills both the desires of the sutra. It's not at the end of a Vishnu Pada and a Vaishnava is following. A Vishnu Padanta Nasya Masya Cha Vishnu Chakram Vaishnave.
For Vanbhyam, it appears to me like Rajanbhyam, where that Bahiranga Karya is indirectly prohibiting, this Antaranga Karya to happen.
Well, then why do we have the transformation of Pum by Animitakasya Animita kapai. Why do we have that? Because if it's still there, because it's not mahaharaha, if it's a siddha, that sa should still be there, and it should stay as a Vishnu chakra, and then we should be able to have no
No,
interaction.
but in this case, Sir was directly, connected to the Vishnu Chakra form. Because of Sir Rama, as we read in that Amrita or somewhere, this Ma Rama was converted into, oh, sorry. Ma Rama was converted into this. So it has got a direct connection. But here they don't have any direct connection with each other.
But in Rajan,
Okay.
because you're saying with Rajan, also doesn't have any direct connection, but we can't apply Krishna Sitri Vikramo Gopale because na is still there.
That is asiddha. Na is asiddha. But in this case, they have got a direct connection.
Yes, but my point is when you delete it by
Okay.
Satsanganta Siro Vishnu Padante, you should not be able to have any interaction between the Prakriti and the Pratyaya. Because it's a siddha. So you shouldn't be able to transform by a Vishnu Chakra Sahari Venor, Vishnu Varge, Vishnu Padanta Situva. You shouldn't be able to transform it into Pumbhyam without a Vishnu Chakra.
You're mentioning
So
about this.
then we should be left with just the form with the Vishnu Chakra. Because we're applying the same action. How do we, it comes back to the same question. How do we have the optionality?
See, till here it's clarified that when we had Pungs, Bhyam, then we deleted Sa by Satsanganta Sihara Vishnu Padante. And because of Sa Rama, this Vishnu Chakra was earlier Ma Rama, and when it connected to Sa Rama, then it converted into this
Yes.
Vishnu Chakra. So it has got a direct connection. In this case, and even in Rajan, this Na Rama and this Arama, they didn't have any direct connection. The existence of Arama was not because of Na Rama. But here the existence of this Vishnu Chakra is because of Sarama. So when they don't have a direct connection, this first here and the second letter, in that case, this is considered a Siddha because of that maxim Bahiranga Karya and Antaranga and something there. So it's considered a Siddha. But in this case, the existence of this Vishnu Chakra is solely because of the existence of Sarama.
Yeah, I understand that. And I agree that the change has to happen because it goes away.
So Pumbhyam is okay because when Sarama is deleted, then the Nimitta Pai is applied and we have Pumbhyam. Now, even this part is quite questioning for me, but till here, like I'm quite convinced of the form like Pumbhyam. And to me,
I agree. But I'm saying that if it's a Siddha, then you can't have the optionality later on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that this point is even questioning, means, raising question in my mind even, that how come we have two forms? And that's why I'm telling that I'll look into some other editions. I have two more editions of Harinam Amrit.
Nice. Okay, yeah, sorry, I've taken up too much time. If we want to move forward, that's cool with me.
I thought we would have finished, but let's see how far. Because we have seven more sutras here, and we did one, so we have 6 now. Anyhow. But Vijay Prabhu will be pleased after hearing this.
Krishna.
So, okay, so Puma, Pumangso, Pumangsa, Pumangsam, Pumangso, Pungsa, Pungsa, Pungham, Pumbhyam, Pungbhi, Pumbhi, ityadi. Pungshu, Pungsu. So 7-3 is Pungs Yuktsu. Then again Purvasya, Satsangantasya. Again Purvasya here. This is 113 is Mo Vishnu Chakram Vishnu Jane. And Ishwara Harimitra Kangibhya Pratyay Vrinchi Sasyasho Num Vishnu Sarga Num Vishnu Sarga Vyavdhane api. Okay, so here they say the word num refer to every kind of anuswara. So here this num, this Vishnu Chakra is considered as num because of the vritti, and we have Pong Shu here. So, but they have also given one more form here without doing it. And Ishwara Harimitra Kamati Pratyam Chedasya.
Num Vishnu Sargo Vyavdhane.
But how come they have given it without this?
This is a translation of the Vritti according to the author of Bhagavritti. That's Jiva Goswami.
Yes.
How likely is it? Where we answer the question, how likely is it?
Ishvara Harimitra Kamya. So we have all of it. Oh, because maybe in that case you don't.
Oh my
It's
God,
not
I've been
exactly a
talking this whole
num.
time, and I was
It's not
unmuted.
exactly a. What's that?
I was talking this whole time. I was on mute.
What were you saying, Pooh? Sorry.
It looks like that he's saying that according to the author of Bhagavritti, the form is Pumshu because Num also includes the other.
The Vishnu
It
Anuswara.
includes Anuswaras, but then others say it doesn't. So Jiva Goswami is saying you can have these two
Both
options
forms.
depending on whether you take one opinion or the other. So a standard reading.
Where does he say that about others?
If you go down, we were just looking at it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
atratu shatvam pungshu na iti anya pungsu. So he's giving
Yeah.
both,
Okay.
considering
I see. Got it.
the other authors.
Because anyway,
But
here
uh-huh.
we're not inserting num, right? That's just the original pums, right?
See, because just few sutras back, Jiva Goswami mentioned that Anuswara or Vishnu Chakra is also considered as both Sarveshwara and a Vishnu Jana.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ishvara Harimitra Kamebhya Pratyalincha Sasyasho Nam Vishnu Sarga Vyavdhane Api. So, ideally, it's not Num and ideally it's not Vishnu Sarga. So, according to Jiva Goswami, this should be the form.
Yeah.
Because it's considered either as a Sarveshwara or as a Vishnu Jana, and both the interventions required do not meet this thing.
Yeah.
So, but here's also referred to Pungshu, which other grammarians suggest. So, anyhow, Pungshu and Pungsu. Puman, Pumangso, Pumangsa. One good thing about Jiva Goswami, like few days back, one devotee was asking me that, mostly like all the acharyas refer to Paninian sutras in the commentaries and so on. So if we study Jiva Goswami's Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, then how we'll be able to figure things out, because so this is one good thing that we have been noticing since the beginning, that Jiva Goswami is simultaneously including the terminologies, the definitions, and their matas, continuously, profusely,
Yeah.
so that the readers of Harinamamrit Vyakaranam can also get an overview, if not in-depth study of other systems, overview of what the other systems are about, especially the Panini. system of grammar. Yes, so Pumangsa. Others, however, say that it doesn't and thus they get Pungsu. Now, so Jiva Goswami is like, first of all, he said that Bhagavati says it should be Pungshu, and others they say it's Pungsu. So he's not mentioning what do I think.
Yeah, well, it seems like also he's favoring the Bhagavati one by
Yeah,
mentioning
actually,
it first.
because here it says na iti anne. So when he says anne, then it seems like it's excluding himself, anne.
Hmm.
But according to his statement, just a few sutras back, the form seems like to this likely to be pungsu. Anyhow, so pungsu. Ushanas, yuktasu, ushanas. Okay, this is
Rirama Sakivam Ushanas Purudam
Ushanas Purudam
Sneha
Shas.
Sityate Vyascha Swaraj Pudam Vina.
Yeah, so by that sutra we have Sangsara Se Harashiti and Ushana. So in Amar Kosha you get to memorize this Ushanas. In the first part, I think. Ushana Bhargava Kavi. Have you reached there, Prabhu?
I stopped so long ago with Amara Kosha. I'm
Okay.
memorizing. The sutras they're taking all of my time for my brain capacity.
Ushana Bhargavo Kavi. Anyhow, I memorized a few hundred shlokas from there.
I did about 90 and then
But actually, Amar Kosha is nice.
yeah, I want to eventually, definitely after doing this, if I'm still have anything left in me, then I want to spend, a year or two getting most of, if not all of Amar Kosha, because yeah, it would be so powerful to have the whole dictionary there.
So Ushana and Ushanasau, Ushanasaha, Ushanasam, Ushanasau. Okay, we'll just stop here today. And we'll definitely complete it tomorrow. This
My
section.
apologies again.
No
Sure,
problem.
don't worry. It's yeah, it's good. I guess I don't know. We could ask somebody who's familiar with the Paninian system about the Vam Vyam to see how they're forming it, maybe, or we could see if we can find a form in Shastra. And
You could also
I don't
write
know
to
about
Matsya Avatar Prabhu and ask him about this. Because that's another thing that strikes
that's
me
a
about
good
him.
idea,
Is Prabhu was extremely thorough about looking at all the manuscripts and finding, all of these little inconsistencies and, going to the oldest manuscripts. So we could ask him, is this a mistake that there is an option here? And because it's written right in the Vritti, and that's a pretty big, it's a pretty big thing. Yeah, I couldn't even find this word vanch in the but it's with a na, not with a ma or a Vishnu chakra.
What about the Vishnu chakra? What is that?
Yeah, I couldn't find vanch in the
Vishnu
dictionaries.
chakrasya Adivenu or Vishnu Varge, Vishnu Pradantasya Tuva.
You mean the
So-
Vritti for that?
No, I'm just thinking out loud about so that means when it's a Vishnu Padantasya, then it's always applied.
Compulsory. Yes, it's compulsory unless it's at the end of a Vishnu pada.
But
Unless the Visha is
in
Vishnu padanta.
BBT books, they just chose to not follow that convention. Is this
No. They don't exercise the optionality. They always leave it undone because it makes it easier. No, scholars normally leave it undone, and the BBT does a half thing where they only do it with certain letters.
No, but I mean, even there are words that it should be done internally, but they don't do it, isn't it?
No, that's not what they said. They said that scholars leave it optional at the end of or they leave it undone at the end of a Vishnu pada because it makes it very confusing. Say you have the word like say you have the word Ramam Nayati. So by Vishnu Chakrasya Hari Venur, you could have Raman Nayati.
Yeah.
Or let's say Radham Nayati. Then you could have Radhan. It makes it a little confusing in the way things.
So in the BBT, they do not do it actually. They just leave it to be Vishnu Chakra.
But sometimes they do it if it's an easy thing, like if it's ma. I've seen that they do it sometimes, but not usually. Not if it's na. Let me just look back. What did they say? Because I have it just here.
Because
the
like
standard of the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, however, is to exercise the option when the Vishnu Chakra is inside a samasa, but not to exercise the option when the Vishnu Chakra is the final varna. Okay, so they do it when it's in a samasa, but not when it's a final varna, whereas Western scholars never exercise it, even when it's in a samasa. So they always leave it as a Vishnu Chakra.
So when it's like they have two Vishnu padas and it's not a samasa, so they just use the Vishnu Chakra form.
Yeah.
I see.
That's the BBT standard.
Yeah, because like if we have the word like Pankaja, you know,
Yeah.
so Pankaja is a samasa, and so BBT would write it like that, Pankaja.
Yeah.
You know, this is because of Ka.
Because
Vishnu Chakra.
technically it has to be done here.
Yes.
But in
so it's
Indian printing, they leave it out because just it's easier for printing. But that's not grammatical.
Yeah, means, but when they write in Sanskrit, of course, even in Sanskrit, many people, they just write like this.
Yeah.
But it's wrong. Sanskrit point of view, it should be, you know, this Pankaja. And if we have like Pankajam, let's say Pankajam Nayati. So now we have two Vishnu padas and it's not samasa. Then in Hindi, or Pankajam Nayati.
And also here we'd have Harivena, Harivenurva, right?
Pankajam. This is
This one we
Vishnu
couldn't get
Chakra.
around.
Yeah, so we don't see this one in VVT books.
Yeah.
Even in the other editions, you know, like even that, you know, that Krishna Shastri's multi commentaries on Bhagavatam, even there they don't use this pattern.
Because it makes things a bit confusing. Sometimes.
So mostly they stick to this. I believe in the older traditional manuscripts, they might have used this one. And personally, I like breaking things like this. It just gives peace to my brain. Like, you know, on an intellectual level. Anyhow. So it's like searching gold in mud, at least. Oh, what is it? Pankajannayati. Because, you know, what happens is Shatri Pratyaya in Kridanta.
Their ending is always na in 1-1.
So it's like Gachan and Nayati. Something like that.
Yeah.
So this Gachan is what do you say? Infinitive verb?
Maybe. I always say a present participle. Present active participle.
Okay. Infinite verb, they say. Anyhow, whatever. I also said half verb.
Yeah.
So things like this and this, they really look alike, but they are not. So anyhow, okay. So thank you. We'll continue tomorrow.